Hello, this is Anna Pacheco, Santa Fe 101.com. My guest today is Andrea Moore, and she is the CEO and president of the Roswell Chamber of Commerce. Andrea, do I have your permission to record this interview?
Yes, you do.
Well, great. Well, the first thing I know before we went on, I was asking you about that great background. Tell me about the background, and then we'll talk all about the chamber.
Well, our background is actually the front window of our building when you come into our parking lot and when you drive down 2nd Street, which is the second main street here in Roswell. And as you can see behind me, there's a little cow that is being sucked up by a UFO. And we chose this because Roswell is very heavily agriculture and dairy. So we wanted to make sure that we were showing the public that we give our kudos to everybody in the agricultural and dairy industry. And then, of course, everybody knows Roswell for the UFO incident that happened in 1947.
Well, you know what? Just refresh our memories. Tell me about it again.
So the story goes that in 1947, something crashed in a field just north of Roswell. And the rancher went out and contacted the military police because at that time, Walker Air Force Base was still open and running here in Roswell. And the rancher at the time claims that it was the crashed remains of a UFO and that there was an alien that was in the crash as well. If you go online, that since then, since 1947, stories vary. The official report was that it was a weather balloon that crashed in the man's field. But of course, over the course of how many years, almost 75 years, that it was actually a UFO with alien bodies, and that the alien bodies and UFO were taken actually from the ranch down to Walker Air Force Base, where they proceeded to do an alien autopsy, where they did an autopsy on the remains of the alien. And once they were finished looking over the UFO and the remains of the alien, that everything was shipped to Nevada's Area 51.
And it's all been hush hush, right? I mean, why do you think the government has decided to keep this, if it is true? I mean, why did they keep it from us? Because of out of fear or something?
I have no idea. I would think it would be wonderful for the government to come out and actually tell us the truth one way or the other and just finally dispel all the rumors. But if the truth is that it was a weather balloon, would anybody ever really believe that that's the true story? I personally would be fascinated to find out that it really was an alien that crashed in a UFO, because that would explain a lot of things going forward. I grew up in Colorado listening to AM radio, and I was very fond of Art Bell, who did an overnight radio broadcast, and he talked about the aliens and UFOs here in Roswell specifically quite a bit. So I would be personally fascinated to find out that it was really an alien and a UFO that crashed.
Well, you know what I find interesting is that, you know, in this entire world, there has got to be other instances. This cannot be the only UFO sighting and something happened, you know, in the history of modern life here. So I think that's really interesting. But this is not a show just about UFOs. But again, just before we go, we'll just continue in this thread for just a second. Every year, of course, we're coming out of hopefully pandemic right now, so the COVID pandemic, so we won't talk with, but prior to that, and I'm assuming going forward, this whole incident from 1947 has played a big part in Roswell's identity. Don't you have like an annual UFO festival and a museum? So tell me a little. We'll continue on this UFO thread for just a couple more minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. So usually the first week in July, it coincides usually with 4th of July. We have the UFO Festival here in Roswell, where we do everything alien and UFO. We have a costume contest. The UFO Museum brings in all kinds of wonderful speakers that, and of course, UFO Museum are believers. So they bring in their speakers that will talk to you about what happened in 1947 and why it's real and why there's other extraterrestrial life form out in the universe. But then there's also, we run the gamut with our UFO festival. Everybody from the hardcore believer to the guy that's like, oh, it's just crazy. It didn't really happen. There's no such thing. And everybody in between. So our festival really tries to incorporate all of that. We've got great vendors that come in as well to sell us all things UFO and alien. We have different food trucks that come in. It just really is a wonderful experience for 1 week. That first week in July, we are hoping to have the UFO Festival this year in Roswell, but of course it will depend on what the regulations and the mandates are that come from Santa Fe on how in person versus virtual we need to be. And the UFO Museum receives approximately 500 visitors from out of state a day, and it equates to about 250,000 to 500,000 visitors a year that come through Roswell from all over the world to come and find out, did aliens really crash north of Roswell in 1947?
And you know what I find is it's really a trip when you're driving in, I don't know from which direction I was coming from. Maybe it's from Carlsbad or something, whatever direction that we like going north or something. And just before you get to Roswell, you see this huge space where all these major jumbo jets like Qantas and Singapore Air. So people park their planes out there when they're not being busy because we're so arid, they won't get rusty and different things. But that again, that kind of lends to the whole, like, not UFO, but like, my God, am I in another planet? I mean, why? You're in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico, and suddenly you see these jumbo jet airliners from all over the world. So that's kind of another neat thing to Roswell. But let's talk about the chamber now. You know, when you sent me the information on the chamber, I understand that in 2 years, in 2023, the Roswell Chamber of Commerce will be celebrating 100 years. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. We are so excited for that.
That is a major coup for a chamber of commerce in New Mexico. Tell me a little bit about your early beginnings, and then we'll go into what you folks are doing now.
Well, the Chamber of Commerce traditionally was the hub in a city where everybody could come and get their information, where you would put citizens with businesses and businesses with citizens, so businesses could find employment, employees, citizens could find employment. They acted like a visitors center for many, many years. And I have learned, being here at the Chamber of Commerce for just about 7 months in my official capacity as the president CEO, that the chamber has actually evolved quite a bit in just the last 20 or 30 years, not to mention 100 years. And right now, since I've been here, the Chamber of Commerce is really trying to get back to that hub of where we are connecting citizens and the businesses, and we are not only helping people find employment and employers find those people to work for them, but we are also going out and helping our small local businesses stay open, stay afloat, because as you had mentioned earlier, we have suffered through COVID this last year, and the pandemic forced everybody to close down, hopefully temporarily, but unfortunately, many of our businesses, not only here in Roswell and Chaves County, but throughout our entire state, have just shuttered and will never open again. And my small little goal right for the short term is I am trying to help prevent just even one more business shut down permanently. If I can do that, I think it's a win.
You know what I'm hoping, and I'm seeing this not just in New Mexico, but it's happening all over the world, is that a lot of these businesses that have just closed, that they won't come back as what they were, but they'll reinvent. It's like a metamorphosis or something. They'll come back stronger, but in a different form. That's what I'm hoping. But so way back 100 years ago, I'm assuming, because you are so strong in the agricultural area, it was probably a lot of ranchers and farmers who were like the business people too, because that was a lot going that way back when. It's probably still a portion of your membership, but tell me about how diverse is the membership at the Roswell Chamber of Commerce?
Oh, it is extremely diverse. We have membership levels that go from just an individual member, so anybody can come in and be a member at the chamber, to, of course, we have what we consider elite members that pay thousands of dollars. And then our businesses within all of those levels range anywhere from our agriculture, our dairies, our ranchers, our farmers, to the small little mom and pop shop. There's a shop that's actually just right across the street that sells homemade soaps. And so and everybody in between. We have restaurants, we have, I think all three of the jewelers that are here in town, if I can remember correctly, have now officially renewed and are members here. So we really try to reach out and get everybody in town to be a member, so we can go out and help them. That doesn't mean if you're not a member and you come into the chamber that we're not going to help you. But of course, there's certain perks that come with being a member that we can help you just a little bit more, or maybe go a little bit further when you are a member for us, or with us rather.
Well, you said earlier, you said that you can help people find jobs. How does that work? Would somebody come into the chamber and say, let's pretend this is not COVID, this is not during COVID time, but somebody would come to you and say, I'm looking for a job at a car dealership, or my past experience is in fixing computers. Do people come in are you kind of like an employment agency, or how do you connect employees with employers?
Well, we are not an employee agency, but because of our membership, if somebody comes in and says, hey, I would love to work at a dealership, I have sold cars before, or I am a technician, or I have worked on computers, I just moved to town, can you help us? We go through our database, and this is where being a member has its perk, is we go to our members first and say, hey, I have this business or that business that is a member, give me your resume, and we'll be more than happy to forward it to our members and see what happens. And then we contact that member, that business, and say, hey, Sally just came in and dropped off her resume. Would you be willing to sit down and at least have a conversation? And a lot of times employers will say, well, maybe I'm not hiring specifically today, but yeah, send Sally down and we'll have a talk, because you just never know. And a lot of times they may refer them to somebody else that they know is hiring that I don't know about.
And then would that be the same thing? Like, would your members ever ring you up and say, we're expanding the XYZ department, we'll be looking for this type of employee. Can you spread the word, or do you put that out there? Or how do you help members find employees?
Well, absolutely. Just exactly that. They will call us and say, we are expanding, or we are now hiring for a receptionist position or an office manager position. We do a weekly email blast that goes out to all of our, anybody in our database. That goes out every Friday afternoon. We will put that information out there. We're actually in the process of updating our website, and there will be a section on our website where our members can go in and post jobs that they need help filling. And so that's the kind of stuff. We put it out on social media. Hey, the hospital is looking to hire a new nurse, or that kind of thing. So we really work at pushing out their information to the best of our ability in all of the ways that we can.
And that's still the best way to do it. I know in this day and age, we have Indeed and Monster.com and all these big, everything, we're all at the mercy of algorithms these days. And how nice to know that in Roswell, it's still kind of word of mouth, a recommendation or that type of thing. And it's nothing to knock these huge employment database things that are out there now, but I still think that's the nicer approach. And I wanted to ask you, in Roswell proper or surrounding areas, is there a lot of manufacturing jobs?
There's some, I wouldn't say a lot, but we do have some manufacturing jobs. And I'm going to consider manufacturing jobs something like, we have Leprino, which processes cheese from the dairies. And so in my opinion, that is a type of a
Well, that's
manufacturing job.
Yes.
There is a beef packing plant, processing plant rather, that is here. So we have some stuff. And of course, every day things are changing. We're constantly working on getting other things. We partner really well with our Chaves County and Roswell Economic Development Corporation. So they typically do the heavy lifting of going out and finding the new industries and the new businesses. And then once they've secured that somebody is for sure interested in wanting to come in, we then kind of help do some of the legwork as well with spouses in particular, that, okay, somebody's been hired and they're going to go work at Leprino, for example. Well, what do you do with the spouse and the family? Then we can come in and give them kind of a tour of what's going on in Roswell, show them the different schools, the shopping, where you can go eat, that type of thing, because a lot of times your first impression is not true. And that is the case here in Roswell. If you were to just drive down Main Street and go, oh, well, that's just Roswell. Oh no, we have so many hidden gems on those little back streets that I love to show people. Oh, here's a cute little boutique shop, or here's a cute little cafe or eatery that you need to go check out, because Roswell is just a fantastic place to come and live, not only to visit, but to come and live.
And you also have the Military Institute there too. So that's kind of a big, that's an employer for you there. So
Yes.
are there any, because I'm interviewing chambers around the state, and I'm asking people to identify, in case somebody is watching this interview and they're thinking of moving to New Mexico, like if they could fill a void. Are there any types of business that Roswell is lacking, or could use more of them? Is there something more that you could, I don't know, like a bike rental shop? I don't know, but what, in your opinion, if you just know off the top of your head, are there any kind of areas that you could use more of, or you don't have any of?
We could use more of everything. Coming out of the pandemic, and as we open, for example, we're seeing which restaurants are going to be able to open ever again. So, we're kind of in that in-between stage, that as we go from red to yellow to green to turquoise, seeing who's going to open up, but there is opportunity for everything. Our mayor, for example, keeps saying he wants to see more fine dining, because we don't have a lot of that. I think we have one, maybe two so-called fine dining establishments. So that would be an opportunity. The boutique type shops go really well in Roswell if you have a specific kind of thing that you want to sell and you're not a Walmart or a Target or a JCPenney's. So if you want to really get into men's, okay, there's one I just thought of right off the top of my head, was men's clothing, for example. There is not a specific store for just men's wear. Now we have different places that do kind of the ranching clothes, but just, a nice pair of slacks and a button-up shirt for a gentleman when they're just hanging out or going golfing, that kind of stuff. That would be a great opportunity. So it's that kind of stuff, just
more type of like boutique type of businesses. What about
Absolutely.
e-commerce? A lot of people can work remotely now. A lot of these younger people that are just whiz bangs on these computers. What about e-commerce? Do you believe that if somebody like moved to Roswell, would there be enough clientele that they would jump on board, or do you have enough people doing all that web stuff already?
Oh no, we're always looking for really good e-commerce type people. Whether it is that you want to just have your business be via online, or you are a computer tech person or a computer IT type person, we are always looking for and needing those types of people, because the IT type people, the computer savvy people, get snatched up very quickly in this area. and they get treated very well by their employers.
And you know what it is too, is that this technology is constantly changing. So to keep
Yes.
abreast of it, you've got to have somebody who's really, who's really hip to the whole thing. What about, let's go back, since we're at the end of the interview, before I ask you to kind of close up there, let's go back to the beginning. Are there any kind of UFO businesses that somebody could come and start there?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, this morning, we just did a ribbon cutting for a UFO themed virtual reality business. They are called the Spaceport, and you go in and you have this virtual reality experience where, and I think he has 5 different programs where you go in, you sit in a little pod, and you feel like you are a part of that story. And he's got 5 different UFO alien themed, where you're on an alien planet, you have different tasks, or you have flown in a UFO and crash landed, that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, our escape room has shut down forever. So there's another opportunity. It was UFO themed, and they had a couple different rooms. If you're not familiar, escape rooms, you go in, you have an hour, and all of the answers to get out to unlock yourself from this trapped room are within the room. So that's kind of the up and coming thing that my children have said is they love to do, is these escape rooms around the country.
It'd be really be neat, would be like a boutique hotel where it was like a UFO themed hotel where each room looks like a spaceship, and that would be that would be a big undertaking, but that's kind of cool. But anyway, that's good to know that if somebody's watching this and they want to have a little fun, because that's the thing in life, there's a lot of really good business people out there and a lot of good business models, but wouldn't it be neat to have fun while you're doing this business? Are there any closing remarks you'd like to end with on this?
Well, I want to say first and foremost, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this interview today. And anybody that has any questions about Roswell, Chaves County, or here at the Chamber, please feel free to contact me. Our phone number at the Chamber is 575-623-5695. We're open Monday through Thursday from 8 to 5 and 8 to noon on Fridays, but there's usually somebody still here afternoon on Fridays. Come by, we'll make you a cup of coffee, give you a bottle of water. We'd love to sit down and talk and visit with anybody that comes through the door.
I thank you again, Andrea. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, you too.